Welcome back to the podcast. In the last episode, we talked about the importance of communication while in a relationship or in marriage. Today, we're shifting gears to discuss a topic that can often be a source of tension while in marriage, and that is money. We'll dive into how to align financially as a team, handle disagreements about money, and set long-term goals together. Let's get into the conversation. So, Lisa, you're going to lead us on.
Money is a very tricky subject. Like, even when you're going on a date, at what point do you start discussing money? It is a very hard topic, but then again, a very necessary topic, because if you don't deal with, the money thing, your relationship cannot work out.
True.
So, money, right? Money being a very interesting topic. So they say that money also is one of the leading causes that leads to divorce in marriages, right? And a lot of people don't understand money, I would say. Now, looking at our culture, where we feel like people are brought up in a certain way that we expect maybe this from a husband and also this from a wife. Now, back in our traditions, the man had to be the one to provide. But how do you deal with money in a society where at some point the man might not have work and it's the woman now who might actually have work in a sense? Because now remember, women have also been elevated to a point where they can also compete with men for similar jobs, which was really not the case before, right?
And also there are critical conditions. Like, remember when we had the pandemic? And people were out of work for the longest time. So there are those situations that emerge when the cultural perspective does not fit the bill. Because what's on ground is maybe the husband is not able to provide at that moment. So what do you do? What happens then? How does the dynamic shift and change? So these are conversations that you need to have when you're dating someone, so that you understand that, will this babe be there for me if I lose my job and I am jobless for a full year? Or she'll be every day nagging me and telling me how I'm the man and I should provide,
But there's also this thing that I've met a lot of young men, my age, older or younger. They keep saying that I need money before I can maybe begin dating or anything else, because probably some of them have been burnt by, probably they had a girlfriend and the girlfriend left them for a guy with more money, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to do this again until I get money, and then they start doing weird stuff just because of money, right? Now the Bible says that money, the love of money, can be the root of all evil, right? So how do you deal with this whole money thing? It's a very important thing. And now, so how me and my wife dealt with it in our first year of marriage is we had to learn about, so let me just go to the start. So I grew up in a place where I didn't really have much money, I would say. So whenever I got money, I would just eat it. I just eat it, because I didn't really have much growing up, but then also at the same time, no one taught me about money, right? I don't know if it's the same case for you. Did someone teach you about money?
No, we weren't taught about money. And it's really funny because we spent so many years in the university, in schools, but no one has a sit-down conversation about this is how you save, this is how you invest, this is the percentage that is supposed to go into personal care,
Unless you're doing entrepreneurship, I think.
Yeah, and most people weren't. Few people were. Yeah.
And so when we got married, I was the kind of person who would just receive money and then I want to buy everything in 1 week or in 1 day or 2 days. So I'd receive my salary and then I would buy food and then save some money for rent, I would say. But then I spend all my money in like 2 or 3 days and I'm done and I'm like, the rest I'll figure it out. Now that was my life. Now when we started living together, when we got married, my wife said it's so weird. In my mind, I was like, what's weird about that, right? Now you can tell me your story.
Yeah, I really found that kind of behavior weird because I was the opposite. I came from a family that was also poor, but how we managed was by saving every penny and using it wisely and sparingly so that everything is enough, prioritizing. And so that's the mindset that I came with into the marriage. And so meeting someone that was totally the opposite of what I thought money habits should look like was so jarring, and it took us a long time back and forth. But then we encountered a book called the
Five Money
the
Personalities.
Money Personalities.
I've forgotten the author though, but the 5 Money Personalities.
Yeah, and it was so eye-opening because then I got to discover that number one, I have weaknesses as well in my money personality. Mine was a saver and security seeker. But that personality is not perfect.
Can you like talk about those personalities like in detail, each person?
Yeah, sure. So
we have basically 5 money personalities as described in that book, right? There could be more, but in that book that read the 5 money personalities. So we have the saver.
The saver.
Person that saves money.
Yeah.
They save money and then they're able to save it, right? Then we have also the security seeker, a person who has plans for the future. They can get someone and then probably invest it in something really small that will, and then make sure that in case this happens, then I'll do this, right? And then we have the risk taker, which is just my primary, because in this case, there are about 2, right? There's the primary, then secondary. So my primary was risk taker. So the idea is that I wanted to do entrepreneurship and build a company in a sense. So so the money I would receive, invest in the company, reinvest in the business, and and that's how I was living my single life in a sense. And I wouldn't really leave much to myself. Now, then my secondary personality was the spender. So I would spend money as well. So I would say, I would just say like some random thing and like I want that. I wouldn't think about tomorrow, but I just like that shoe. It's like 180k UGX, and I'm like, let me just get that shoe, you know. Yeah. In my mind, I thought that getting something expensive is quality, right? Yeah. And then the 5th one is the flyer. So the flyer is specifically someone who can all of a sudden maybe just travel out of nowhere and say, hey guys, we've got some money, let's just blast and just have a party. Right now, that's the kind of flyer person in a sense. They don't really necessarily plan ahead of things for certain things, right? So they can just spend on a trip. They can just spend on a birthday, that sort of thing. So those are like the 5 main money personalities. Now, my primary one was risk taker and spender. Now, my wife, as she said, her primary was saver and then security seeker, right? Yeah. Now, she didn't understand why I couldn't save money. I didn't understand why she couldn't buy herself nice things.
But she has a very rare personality for the ladies.
Rare?
Yeah. Most ladies are like flashy in a way.
No, not really. I think
for real.
I think the majority of women that I've met have her money personality. Security seeker and saver, the majority.
Through experience?
I've met. For me, my own experience, I've met.
Remember what you said about men wanting to get women that after they have made it. Their past experiences with women are that if I don't have money, she's going to leave me.
Yes.
Because she probably wants to live a flashy life. She's high maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not every woman is high maintenance.
Yeah.
Just because you met 1, 2, 3 that were doesn't mean that the whole population is. So people are different. That's why they are called money personality.
Is it a personality you've always had?
Yeah.
You've always had that.
Also, personalities are built by the environments we grew up in.
Yeah. True.
So if like I grew up in a place where people are, when we get money, we have to blast. That's kind of the personality that I'll develop as a child and grow into it.
Yeah.
But also the beauty about it is that personalities also change over time. Over time, I've seen myself becoming also a person who's able to save. Right? And now I've also seen her change into a person who also takes risks as well. So over time, like I said, depending on the environment, our personality can change in a way. So there's always the dominant one, then there's one which is not so dominant, and then there's sometimes when we just like swap things around, right? In a sense.
And what I was doing wrong is thinking that his is bad and mine is good. Like someone who's a spender is a bad money personality and the saver is a better money personality. That's what I was doing wrong, because even the saver has weaknesses. The weaknesses are that when an opportunity arises for investment, this person is not going to be flexible. They'll be like, no, I'd rather see the money in the bank. And money in the bank doesn't grow. It depreciates when you talk to the financial experts. So it doesn't mean that any of those personalities are bad. All of them have good sides.
You need to balance
and bad sides. Yes. So what helped us was when we could sit down and communicate and understand that I also have weaknesses. So what I was doing wrong was feeling like me, I'm the right one and he's the wrong one. So when I read the book, I realized, whoa, I also have weaknesses because I'm not taking risks. So we can't really, you can't grow rich if you can't take a risk.
Yeah, true.
So I'm actually shooting myself in the foot. So once we could have that conversation, then things turned around for us. And that's why I think it's very important to have the money conversation in your relationships, openly and honestly.
But early on or later?
I think when you are dedicated to building something, when you're at that stage that you have committed to building something and going forward together.
But I would actually prefer that you actually have such conversations, especially when you're married. We recently saw a couple where they actually both invested in a business, but then they broke up, and then everything now became so weird in terms of how do I talk to this person, or someone how to now hire a lawyer or someone like an in between to now speak to the other individual because they own this business together in essence. But it does make sense, like you said, when you're building something together, and that place, I would say marriage gives it that really good base foundation. You're now building something together and have a conversation, get to understand how you guys spend money. Another thing that I think is also very important to this conversation is budgeting. Now, we both learned about budgeting. She learned about budgeting earlier than because she's obviously a saver and also a security seeker. And then she taught me how to budget and said, okay, Martin, if you receive this salary, 10% should go let's say into giving. So one thing that we learned early on in our lives is it's really good to bless other people.
Yeah.
Right? So by blessing other people, we were able to see our finances grow. Right? So it's like a bucket. So think about it like a bucket, right? And in this, so we're sitting in a circle and everybody has a bucket, and then everybody's just pouring what they have into another person's bucket and just continuing the flow. Now, this is what happens, because money is really funny. If you stop and withhold that which you've gotten and say, you know what, I'm not going to give and bless someone else, you sort of short circuit your growth and your blessings eventually. You might not see it immediately, but that person that you've withheld, that ability to give to, will receive from someone else, right? And then you will stay with your bucket, and your bucket will not be replenished. Other people are replenishing, but your bucket is with you. And virtually what happens is that which you've withheld depreciates, because money depreciates at the end of the day, right? So year on year we have inflation. So what good is it to save your money in the bank, right? Yet probably you could have blessed someone else, and then in return that person could have blessed you back in the future. So it's as if you're planting seeds for the future, right? That sort of thing. So we learned very early in our lives to give and bless other people, and that has really blessed us a lot. And then, so that was about 10% of your salary, give, or whatever you earn, be able to give to other people.
Yeah.
And then we learned 30% is for investment, right? So the 30% being for investment, and then you need to also pay yourself. So you can get 10% and say, I'm paying myself. Now, many of us have heard of misers, so people can mise on themselves and say,
Yeah.
that was her. Because she would never buy anything nice for herself. I'm like, why don't you buy something nice for yourself?
I would go shopping and see something that I really, really like, and then I'd be like, I don't need it. I don't need it right now. Right now, I need to save.
Yes. And now, it would also become funny because sometimes I'd buy for her like chocolate, and it's like, but this money we could have spent it, maybe we could have spent it elsewhere.
Like I don't even appreciate gifts.
Yes. So it became really hard for her to appreciate some of my gifts as well. And it's it's very interesting.
Yeah. Like every of those personalities has strengths, but they also have weaknesses.
Yeah.
So you can't say that if you're a flyer, that's the right one to be. Like it's all different. And so it's about finding a right balance and learning from each other.
And also covering each other's weaknesses. Yeah. Because where she was able to cover my weaknesses and say, you know what, Martin doesn't save. So I'd be like, you know what, I have a weakness. I can't save money. I am going to give you the money that I receive. So I'm like, Han, here's the money. Help me budget. So that way she's covering for my weakness. But then also at the same time, I would say, Han, don't you think that maybe you need to actually buy that thing? Don't you think you need it in a sense? So that's me now trying to remind me, you know what, love yourself, get yourself something in a sense. So that 10% for giving to yourself is very, very important, because if you don't give to yourself, you end and you keep giving and giving and giving, and then you don't receive, you end up hating people. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you do actually end up hating people.
Work that you're doing.
Exactly. It becomes like it's not a blessing, it just becomes like work. And then you need a percentage for saving. That's 10% saving, right? So 10% is for saving, and then the rest you need to now look into, okay, what are my expenses? What is this? What is that? So ideally, if you know you're renting, right? Ideally, your rent, money that you pay for rent, should be 10% of your salary. But for most people, it's about 80%. Some people would rather live in a fancy place and pay that amount of money, but then struggle and then borrow money. Because I've seen this. I've had some friends of mine speak in the corporate world who have friends who drive cars, they rent nice apartments, rent nice places, but they end up borrowing money from other people just to get by, because the salary is not enough. And that really becomes quite interesting, right? So why not downgrade your lifestyle to actually live comfortably, in a sense, maybe within the city? And that's where my wife had this phrase where I should say, like, you know what, why not go out of the city and get places that are slightly cheaper? So for many years, I said, you know what, we are fine here. We're just totally fine, right? Until she explained to me the reason why we might need to shift to another location. And then when we shifted, I actually saw the sense in it, because rent out there was cheaper. The cost of living was cheaper in a sense. And we had more money to maybe save or spend in other aspects or other areas, right? So that's something that we really learned along the way. So that budgeting perspective is so crucial. So yes, you can learn about your money personalities, but also budgeting becomes very, very important.
Yeah, and also we were talking about the emotional spending.
Yeah, the emotional spending. The emotional spending. So some people spend money just to counteract their emotions. You're having a bad day and you decide to spend so that you can, feel good about yourself. You feel good about yourself. Yeah. And yes, there are going to be problems in the relationship. Things are going to come up. But how much money can someone put aside for just fun? Remember how we've been going out on Fridays to different places just to have some fun. After a long week of work, you go out. I think there is some relevance to setting aside some money to at least experiencing life, because you can't always be so conscious about your money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he was saying.
The
percentage needs to go to that as well.
And also, 21st century, me in my category, at least with some of the ladies I've encountered, it's most of them are trying to live a certain lavish lifestyle. Yeah. And if I'm getting a suitor, in a sense, I'm probably going to get one who also wants to experience some kind of luxury, some kind of fun. And I will need to set aside some money for that.
Absolutely.
Though not a lot, though not like spending lavishly every time, but at least there's something.
There has to be a budget.
Yeah, so that we can communicate that. Yeah.
Yes, and another factor is discipline,
Very
because
important.
they say that 10% I'm going to put it in my savings account, or 30% I'm going to invest it, and then the 30% comes and you're like, let me just take a trip to Ginger. So you have to be disciplined enough to actually follow through with what you set out to achieve.
But also with money, I think when we get money, we want to like allocate it to things that tend to give us a lot more headache than to spreading it wide, like the way you've been explaining with all those percentages. Sometimes you find the money you're making isn't that much, but you want to make sure that you can handle rent and at least buy food. And you're hoping your partner can understand this point as you try to get better as a person. Yeah,
and I think,
and it can be hard to allocate money in that sense and put aside money for saving, for going out, and now it becomes a problem. You find your partner is resenting you. We don't even go out.
And that's why I said,
buy me gifts.
And that's why I said ideally you should be budgeting like that. I mean, according to research, ideally you should be budgeting like that. But there are some times when you can't.
It goes back to communication, getting to know the person. Like, before you take things further, understand how does this person, think about money.
Sure.
How do they think about money? Because if you don't know how they think about money and you just get excited, because in the beginning it's more like, I'm trying to impress this person, so I'm going to spend on this person lavishly so that they can like me.
I had a story like that, and there was this couple that, the guy was trying to get this babe, she's so beautiful, she's amazing, so he's spending everything. He hires a car, he takes her around using Uber, he's showing her the posh life.
Exactly.
And then finally she agrees to move in with him and settle down with him, and then she's not seeing the poshness anymore.
I like the fact that you said finally she agrees to move with him.
Yeah.
Like, in the beginning you're trying to excite this person, because as a man it's so hard to understand the female side.
Absolutely, but
it's
you see
hard.
What I was saying was the story did not end well. Because
Yeah.
when she came in and realized, I thought you were posh. I thought you were giving me the life that my father can afford to give me. And so she started comparing him with the men that, had mentored her, the men in her life, role models, and he wasn't cutting it. She became a problem and she left. So the relationship actually ended in tears. So
that's kind of the problem we face as men.
Be authentic. Be who you
Be
are.
real.
Be
Don't
real.
don't pretend to be
So
what
that
you're
you can
not.
get a real one.
But there's also that fear. I might lose this person. Like, you're saying this person
Then
is
they
of high
go.
standard and you want the person.
Let them go.
Let them go.
Yes. Because you see, Chris, the thing is, you'd rather live a life where you're not struggling to. Have you ever woken up one day in the morning or days on end and you're just anxious? You're literally anxious to just meet this person's expectations that might be unrealistic in that moment.
And you start feeling like you're in prison.
And you stop
You're not
enjoying
with a
the
partner and you're in
relationship.
prison.
You stop enjoying yourself.
Every time you stress, you're like,
And the next thing you know,
if I don't meet her needs
Yeah.
this month, she might go this month, maybe next month, maybe the other month.
Like, who wants to
you're
live at
living on
10
tension.
points?
Yeah, you're living
who
on
wants to live
tension.
in constant fear? So
But again, you don't want to lose her.
yeah, but you see, the thing is, it also boils down to values. What are your values and what are her values? If this person values money, do they correlate with yours as well? Yes, you also want money, but let's look at reality. I think sometimes what also makes people very unhappy is that they're not practical. Just be practical. You don't have a lot of money to spend, then be practical about it and say, you know what, this is me. And just be honest. Rather than step one foot in and then go in further and then get burnt. And I think that's the problem, because we have adults acting like children.
And you saw the sad thing is, at the end of the day, you'll say women are this way,
Yes.
but you ran up for that kind of woman that you could not manage, and now you're blaming all the rest of the
you're blaming all of them.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, you're now putting yourself in a position where you have to constantly feed into this person's whatever they want, lifestyle, whatever their fantasies, but you can't.
I think another way for men to like approach this is you need to have a strong character, strong front that you put out. Because if you're relying on spending, giving her lavish experiences in order to win her over, you're not going to. Later on, it's not going to sustain. It's not going to be a sustainable strategy.
Because life is fluctuating.
You need to have a character that when you meet her, you're open. You tell her how things are going. You're like, we can eat at this restaurant, but this is my budget. Maybe next time, maybe when I get some more money, I can take you out there. But for now, maybe we can work around this place. Like, just have a strong personality, have a strong front that communicates, that this person is able to read.
Yeah, I think that comes from a place of self-love.
Self-love.
If you're not self-loving and confident in who you are, then you're always trying to please. And that's the worst place to be. Even if it's in a relationship, trying to please your partner, then you're not being real to yourself and you break. Eventually, you break.
What about those women that spend on their men?
What about them?
What about them? Because, there's some women who prefer to like spend on the man. She has money and all, and now you find that okay. This has come to my head randomly because I do know there are women that have men that don't have money.
Yeah,
and they want to like give this person a good lifestyle, good life. But also the man, insecurity comes in later on because, man, I'm a man.
Yeah.
Well, you're making more money than me. It's getting uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How do those people communicate in their relationship?
I think it still boils down to the basics of communication, stating assertively what you need and having those needs met and where your boundaries are. Because yes, in as much as she's spending on him, I'm sure she has a line. And she's like, okay, maybe you've lost your job for this period of time. I'm going to be able to support, but I need you to be actively looking for a job. So yes, you get through it.
I think that's a good way. Yeah.
Yes, it's a tough time. You get through it, but you need to communicate your boundaries clearly. And the other party must also be willing to respect that this is as far as she can go, and beyond this, I need to put in.
When you explain it like that, it tells me that most women that are that way are usually like they have an identity for themselves. They have values. So if you're not able to meet them, they're going to start being on your neck like, get something. Okay, yes, I'm doing better than you, but I need you to stand up for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like you said, the idea is that don't be comfortable in whatever, because at the end of the day also, it might also strain your partner in a sense, but also communicate and be able to help each other. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what I can receive. It's about also what can I give into the relationship, right? So maybe in the meantime, there's no job, but maybe the man can help out with other aspects as well, maybe with the kids and other aspects, right? And society has a way of judging men a certain way and also judging women a certain way as well. So I think at the end of the day, if we can avoid what society says, and then it's just the two of you, and then the two of you just agree and say, you know what? We cannot go this direction. Let's go this other direction. There was a period in our marriage when I didn't have work and she had work, and then she was the one supporting. And then the world out there says, don't support the man. He has to figure it out. But what happens when it's totally failed? Do the two of you pack up bags and go to the village? Does the relationship end? Does the marriage have to end? You see that? So this topic about money is very, very, very critical, especially for marriages, because it could be the thing that divides a family. You have children, and there's also situations when the both of you don't even have work. So the situation when the man doesn't and the woman does. Now, what happens when the both of you don't have anything? How do you figure that one out?
Most couples end up blaming each other, fighting each other. Like you make yourselves your
the enemies. You're supposed to be fighting together. Yes.
And yet you're supposed to hold each other and fight together, like he said. So for me, in conclusion, I would like to say that it's a thing that the two of you have to communicate and say, this is who I am based on your personality. This is who you are. Where are the boundaries? How can we work together? How can we manage together? Because it's not copy paste. You can't get what the other person has done and do it. You have to figure out what works for the both of you.